call the meeting to order,
And then we can review minutes.
and we can review the minutes, and, so, does anybody have any comment on the minutes? They were posted by our worthy secretary.
I posted them this afternoon, so it's a little.
I thought they were supposed to go out to everybody for review, and vote on it before you post it.
No, I didn't post them, I emailed them all of you to review this afternoon. Maybe I
didn't get it. Hey.
Were you at the last meeting?
So, tonight will probably be a bad night to be here. Because we're going to be dealing with Nature's Wilderness Campground application, and I don't know if maybe we could hear from you while we wait to see what we want to do about the minutes, and we wait for David. But once David comes, we'll probably progress on. I don't mean to be rude or anything.
Oh, you're not rude.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk to us? I mean,
He's already seen them. My wife showed him.
Give me your names again, just for a minute. I apologize. What are your names again? I apologize.
My name's Dawn. This is Marvin Reinhardt, senior.
D-A-W-M?
Right.
And what was your last name? I'm sorry.
Reinhardt.
R-E-I-N-H-A-R-D.
Thank you.
what would you like from us?
I'd like to have the permission to do what I want to do.
I don't think we're the right people to come to.
What's taken place since last time we met?
Yeah.
You have nothing to stand, like to stand on, if I can say. The CEO has already seen it.
Did you apply for a building permit?
I have, and I want to find out what's gonna consist of. What we're gonna do.
Which lot are we talking about again? This, map and lot number?
On map. That she did that. That was one thing, and then there's another map, probably next Thursday.
So you're just trying to establish that you paid taxes before 1975.
So I think we got the, already done. We bought the land in 1959.
I get it.
We have no building code back then. Then she moved in, the trailer and everything in 1973.
So,
She paid taxes on the land and the trailer, and we paid on all the land.
so what I've got here from the minutes of our September 12th meeting, we said recommended course of action, ask code enforcement officer if they can subdivide, and if he says no, take it to the Board of Appeals.
It's already established, it's too large.
Then you'll probably come out fine.
I know, I just said it.
But you have to apply to him to subdivide into two lots.
What happens, Marvin, is how the door of the Board of Appeals open is when the code officer denies your request. That pulls the trigger, then you can go.
Well, I can't see how you can deny it, because it was established as two lots before the building code.
So, go for it. Go for it. In other words, we don't have anything to do with this.
No, whatever they're doing.
So,
That's right.
go for it, see what he does. We don't know what he's gonna do.
Well, he's done what he's gonna do. Board of Appeals can make their decision from there, right?
Well, he hasn't done what he's gonna do, because nobody's applied to him yet.
There's been discussions, but there hasn't been
Application.
That's all. Discussions and trying to sort things out beyond that. So yeah. I'm here tomorrow morning and we'll see how far we can go with it.
Does that make sense? I mean, it's like a process. And you gotta go, you gotta go to first base before you can round it and go to home.
I can't run.
If you had, all right, so if you had 20 acres would come see us,
Yeah,
but your situation is different, so that's why you have to go through the Board of Appeals.
we may not even have to go
You may-
through it, we don't even know.
Yeah.
We don't even
Why
know.
don't I issue them a permit tomorrow?
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
I started at 8. And anytime between 8 and 12, it's a first come, first served, walk in the door type situation.
okay. Thank you, sorry to drag you down here.
Oh, didn't have to drag me, it was him who had to drag.
Oh, we're glad to see you, you come every time.
Sure.
Second and fourth
He
Thursday.
had surgery on his back.
Yes. I understand, it's good to see you walking around. I imagine you feel the same way.
You look about the same as you did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I wouldn't have-
You look the same as you did 2 weeks ago, so it must have gone well.
Had surgery on his heart.
Oh.
Pacemaker now, artificial valves.
Well, good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Still going.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay, but I'm sure you don't want to.
Okay. Had a scary coming up.
I did.
Yeah. Watch out for that.
Yeah.
Anybody wanna make a motion about, the minutes?
I also feel awkward making a motion about the minutes I wrote.
I move we approve the minutes.
So I would second that we approve the minutes. Do we want us to wait, Matt, to see if you can find?
That also wasn't at the last meeting. Didn't make it hard to vote.
Matt Trigger wasn't there,
Okay.
so, would you abstain from voting, or if we voted, or what is your pleasure?
Oh, just I haven't seen it when I wasn't here, so.
Okay.
It was 2:30 that I got.
Yeah, it was late this afternoon, sorry. A real job got on.
So, are we ready to vote? Yep. Approve the minutes, all those in favor of approving the minutes? Okay, we approve the minutes. Thank you. And we come to a screeching halt.
You know, it is built into my template, as I like to point out, David Strzok arrived late, and I deleted it if he's actually on time.
Well, they said 7 minutes late, and that'll be in another 30 seconds.
Well, are there other things? The other things that are on the agenda were further discussion about an ordinance for mass gathering and suggested modifications to the ordinance regarding the maximum noise level. I don't know if there's any conversation we're having on those.
Is there anybody here for anything that has nothing to do with Nature's Road Club?
I just like to look at you guys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, you know, in the future, you can watch it over and over again.
I hadn't even thought of that.
You know,
I'm
you
older,
don't
I don't
actually have to
feel
sit here.
old.
You can stay home.
Popcorn, I could sit down and make popcorn.
It's not live.
Well, that's okay, you don't have to tell me that.
So they can edit out the cuss words.
Oh, and I can swear all I want, which I'm really good at.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a copy of it?
I do, I texted them.
Today's.
Yeah. No. What's it, no, we approved the minutes.
Everybody looks at them.
Oh, I know, oh, yeah, we should pay them a little bit more.
Supposed to check out of that.
Maybe that's your secret.
Okay, number 2 item on the agenda, we could do. But no, I think it would be better if David was here.
Meg, if he's on his way, it's worth
Yeah.
letting him.
Yeah, I would rather have him doing this.
Did he get?
Forever, doesn't it?
We would, it's
We
constant.
said that in the car.
Oh, I do too. Just to get to the room, a little further.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We should.
Oh, God, I think sure, yeah, that's all they've done. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Maybe they was right. Like you suggested, I didn't use a bucket, but I put a wooden crate up against the hole that was big enough for the baby chickens to get out of, and they were all in this morning. Oh, good, yeah, thank you. Like duct tape and buckets.
Kathy, have you gotten rid of any more manure, or how's your?
No, I'm waiting for you and Norm to get your acts together.
Oh, well, okay, so maybe
Yeah.
next week or the week after, if he hasn't done it, I'll just take it off.
Okay, do that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. If I can get underneath the water.
There'll be more, and I'll help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they,
Never fair.
you feed them so much and they make twice as much. Great things to make.
We are for my, starting to. We already started, we just paused because we knew you were up.
Yeah, we did approve the minute, talked about it right now again,
That's going.
last already, it's good to go.
Alright, so the next thing that I had on the agenda was, I heard that there was some, issue at Nature's Wilderness and the CEO handled that, and so I thought it would be beneficial for us to understand what happened, if there was any sort of violation, or what happened.
According to the email, you wanted a report?
Sure. I just wanted you to tell us what happened.
Prepared.
Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, fabulous. So the CEO has,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of an agenda. Everybody can walk in prepared, huh?
Well, most of us did.
Yes, they're prepared, not on time. There you
Yeah, I
go.
didn't have to amend my meeting.
So, you wanna walk us through this, or you want us to read it?
Why don't you read it?
Alright, so it says September 30th, report, complaint, activity at Marston Pond on Sunday, September 29th, a call was received from a local neighbor concerning noise coming from the direction of Marston Pond. It was described as, quote, racing going on at Marston Pond, end quote. At 1:30, this CEO conducted a visit and inquiry in the area of the pond. It was observed that 4 male individuals with snowmobile-type vehicles were situated and parked at the sandy beach area of Marston Pond, adjacent to Marston Road. The wives and/or friends and children of these individuals were present, seemed to be enjoying a leisure time, as well as the children playing, obviously a social event. At the moment, no vehicle activity was underway. Inquiry determined that the individuals had permission from Gary Brown to conduct practice runs of, quote, skimming, end quote, on the pond. Gary was not present. Phone call determined that Gary had been present earlier in the day. The individuals were preparing for a competitive event soon to be scheduled elsewhere. There were marker floats on the water indicating an oval course. While present, the individuals demonstrated a typical run of the vehicles because this CEO had never experienced, observed a skimming run event. Drivers made about 5 rounds about the course, in which the speed of the vehicles often lifted the front skis out of the water, and contact was only with the tread section underneath the vehicle. Steering was accomplished by the driver leaning hard in the direction of the turn, as if on a motorcycle. Interesting. There's an exclamation mark, so I had to show some passion. The visit was terminated with the assurance that the activity and use of the vehicles would not continue beyond 5 p.m. Being Sunday, the vehicles were noisy due to no mufflers being attached to the engine exhaust, therefore allowing it allows escaping gases to flow without restriction after engine compression, the typical racing vehicle characteristic. Conclusion, the activity was allowing guests with family at the premises to practice the sporting event on a private pond. When competitors strive to be winners, they need to practice at some moment in time, somewhere on the water. That was what this activity appeared to be, nothing more than practicing skimming on an improvised water course. Signed by Wes Sunderland, the CEO. Well done. Well written too. Nice work.
Yeah, very good, very detailed.
I appreciate that. Well, we know what it is. All right. So it's clearly you're not seeing any sort of violation. It was
No violation.
in your view. Okay. Excellent. Very, very much appreciated. Does anybody have any questions of the CEO? I mean, I think you pretty much covered everything. All right. A review of the additional submission from Nature's Wilderness LLC regarding its pending conditional use permit application. Electronic copies were distributed earlier this week. So to set the stage for all those who are new, on September 20th, 2018, we received a conditional use permit application from Nature's Wilderness with a series of attachments. And we had, that was a while ago, so we had some meetings, and they have submitted additional documents and additional information responses, all of which I requested be identified as attachments to the original conditional use permit. You get so much information, and and that wasn't the first application. We'd received others, and so we just picked that date as the date that we were gonna use that one. So far, I was erroneous in my email. We're actually up to attachment 18. And the attachment, and we'll make a copy of this for you guys so you can see it. Did you notice that Joe stepped aside voluntarily, recused himself?
I did in the last meeting.
Okay.
So I remove myself from the table
Got it.
so that I make a physical statement that I've recused myself. And that is what's required of recusal, that you get up from the table and move away.
Voluntary recusal.
Yeah.
Attachment,
I was trying to open attachments, I hadn't even noticed he was.
he was pretty sneaky.
He was.
Stealthy, I'm sorry, not sneaky.
Such a millennial, I was looking at my device.
And I'll give you a copy of this. This was attached to one of the later submissions, not just added to it. So attachment 2 or the deed. You don't have to type it. Okay, I just want to make sure. 3 is the location map. 4, stormwater management report. 5, septic test. 6, something called an HHE 2000 form. 7 is a traffic study. 8 is a response letter from Unusual and Natural Areas Program. 9 is a sample reserve and rate sheet. 10 is an example of the campgrounds with rental cabins. 11 is a list of campgrounds approved by the state in 2018, other campground locations. 12 is a recorded boundary survey. 13 is a preliminary plan. 14 are rules from the American Camping Association. 15, and this is where we start to get interesting. 15 is a submission that was given on 11/11/18. 10/11/18, I'm sorry, 10/11/18. 16 is a submission given on March 14th, 2019. Number 17 is the submission that was given just a few days ago on October 3rd, 2019. And attachment 18 is a set of plans that were recently submitted on October 3rd, 2019. That's the, as far as I'm concerned, is the conditional use permit application that we have in front of us. And that's just kind of set the stage. The most recent submission is 17 and 18, which are 10/3/19. There's two submissions, one a written submission and the other one planned.
You know, when I came back on the board, I got this, which had 12 in it, and I haven't really received anything else. Now I have these four, but I don't have what.
I put this together, yeah, I put this together.
So were these four that are attached here,
So-
are they
so,
just
no.
replacements of what's in
So
here?
the one that, yeah, see, that's the beauty of it. So this is 10/3. So this entire packet with its exhibits is attachment 17.
Oh, I thought
Because they kept giving us new packets. So they kept giving us new packets. So we each packet is an attachment with its own. So like the Small World Begonia Survey is part of attachment 17. I don't know how else you do it.
Isn't that duplicative though?
No, because they all have little pieces.
Because this has the same information as what's in here, like existing property, proposed project, and things like that. See, it's right here. So November 5th, 2018.
But it doesn't have all this.
Right. So I would think that
I mean,
are you saying that this whole thing is an attachment?
yeah. I mean, because each one has different information. I mean, that's the problem with getting a application over time is, how do you, I'm sorry, I'm talking that way, but how do we, you know, it would have been nice to get one application, but that's not what happens. So we have a bunch of information that keeps compiling on each other.
It does, but I think you're both right? Like, some of it is new information replacing old information or restating things, like, you know, because if you take that whole document, there's gonna be different reports of the number of campsites, for example, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's more recent attachments.
Right, but when we do the conditions, we're gonna have to put a number in the condition,
Right.
not based on that, you know, not. Sure. Like, we're gonna have to take some of the information out of here.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you, it's not perfect.
Personally, I would just rather see a net, clean submission, you know, with the cover letter and the upfront stuff, and then attachments don't duplicate that. In other words, if this says November 15th, 2018, and then we get a new one, you know, October 3rd, 2019, this should replace that. And then there shouldn't be any duplication in any of the attachments to earlier attachments or what's in here, so that when we sit down to read this, it's a much more efficient, effective process to go through it, because we haven't, as a board, we haven't evaluated this yet. We haven't had the site walk, we haven't had the public hearing.
Right.
So at some point in the future, all of us on the board need to sit down with a book that should be as easy to go through possible, because if it's, I don't wanna have to read this and then say, well, let's see, we have 4 more copies of that one. Has anything changed? You know what I mean?
I do, and
Or am I being-
in the perfect world, that's what we would get, but this applicant hasn't done it that way.
And in our defense, some of the attachments are answers to your questions, things we didn't have on the plan, so we had to put more attachments in. It's not,
Well, at a minimum, everybody who's gonna evaluate this should have the same document to read off of, and I don't think at this point we have that now.
I think that's probably correct.
Is it possible at some point before this process is finished to get a single document so that that's what the public gets, that's what goes in the file for the future, and in the future, some poor person who wasn't even alive today doesn't have to try to figure this out?
We have to buy a new file cabinet from Hafer Wood.
As Gary kept teasing me, my collection of applications was like, 10 inches thick, you know, and at some, can we consolidate so that we can read it?
Well, here's the gentleman.
Yeah, we're certainly happy to, obviously, the plans have changed quite a bit since last time, so the cover letter changed. So once we get through this and we feel we have an application that is, you know, what we're all talking about and not gonna change, I'm more than happy to go through, and work with you on the numbers and give you one comprehensive, packet that has one cover letter, all the attachments listed in order. And the current set of plans that you have one document that's, you know, certainly can do that.
What's the order of business tonight? What do we need to do relative to Nature's Wilderness and this packet of stuff?
It's wide open, my friend, wide open.
If you'd like, I do have an easel and some boards. I'd be more than happy to present new information and a new layout, but that's certainly up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious so Lee J. Feldman is not here. And I want him to be here, I think the board wants him to be here for the substantive discussion of this. But, I mean, he can watch some of the video, to get a lot of this.
Let's
But
focus on changes.
But I think it would be good to, get the changes.
Your mind might be better, but,
And, find out what the changes are. I have some, additional information that we can talk about as well.
Right, you're probably the best spot.
Wherever you wanna talk.
Well,
I'm
make sure
sorry,
everyone can see
remind
it.
me of your name.
My name is Jeff Amos, Paradigm Consultants.
So while you're setting that up, I looked at the application and Gary, remember last time I said that I was really concerned about what, was on the website, and you said, because there was a whole bunch of uses that were on the website that.
they were removed. If you look at the new website, they're updated, removed.
Yeah.
It is concerned with.
So I went through the application and compared it to what was on the website and made a list of the things that were not covered by the application. And I'd like if we can do this.
We need to last look at the website, get updated in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, I'm just more talking, that folks associated with the with the,
Together?
project, including yourself, have made assertions that certain things hopefully would happen. And when I looked at the plan, I compared it to things that have been said that may be done there that weren't on the application. So I thought it would be helpful for us, for the board to, have a statement from you, on behalf of Nature's Wilderness that certain things would not be happening because they were asserted to be happening elsewhere, but they're not in the plan. So I wrote this thing that says, on behalf of Nature's Wilderness LLC, the undersigned agrees and acknowledges that the following activities are not included in Nature's Wilderness, conditional use permit application, and Nature's Wilderness will strictly prohibit such activities on the subject property, i.e. the 860 acres designated as Lot 22, Map 7. And there's a list, a natural or man-made amphitheater, horse stables or other buildings where horses are kept, the rental of ATV, UTV, or motorbikes, all commercial or recreational watercross activities, all commercial or recreational racing or other contests involving UTVs, or ATVs, UTVs, motorbikes, snowmobiles, or other motorized vehicles, whether for on or off-road use. Commercial snowmobiling activities or commercial activities of other motorized vehicles for use on snow outside the designated dates of operation. All commercial and recreational use of facilities and properties outside the designated dates of operation. All commercial or recreational activities for individuals who are not renting, I said rented, but it should be renting a cabin or RV site at the facility. In other words, having large gatherings for guests for that activity, not for the camping aspect of the facility. And then commercial hunting activities outside the designated dates of operation. So those are all things that I saw the owner of Nature's Wilderness or you say that may happen on the property but are not included in the application. And so I was hoping that we could just clean the slate for those things. You said that website listing wasn't accurate. So I was hoping we could just clean the slate, have you sign this saying, yes, those things are not part of the application and will not be permitted on the property.
Yeah, the website has been cleaned of most of these things. I'm not ready to sign this tonight. There will be no rentals, 100% no rentals of ATVs, UTVs, but a couple of these in here could go either way.
So what I'm telling you is, if they're not here, they need to be prohibited. If you're gonna do them, they need to be in here. Because I feel like we're getting jerked around. You know, you said the website's garbage. These are the things on the website. If you're not gonna do them, you need to declare you're not gonna do them instead of saying they may go either way.
I said the website's garbage.
Actually, I think you said it might be lies. You used some pretty strong language.
Last meeting,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But I'm kind of tired of playing games. I mean, either you're doing it or you're not. Either declare you're doing it or you're not.
How do you look at it like the horses?
Scott Efron, in his explanation of who we are, said there would be horse stables on the property. The application, to my knowledge, does not contain any reference to horse stables.
Right, it was taken off.
It does talk about equestrian, which is, I don't know if that was old language that wasn't in the attachments we got from 10.3, there was reference to that question.
But not stabling of horses.
No.
That they could use the trail for horse, yeah.
The question was about stable reference, yeah.
Right. So either you're having stables or you're not. Either you're gonna have an amphitheater or you're not.
Yeah, no amphitheater.
Either you're gonna have watercraft activities or you're not. Either you're gonna, have races and other contests, as Scott Efron says were gonna happen, or you're not. And so I need, at least, you know, we haven't voted on it, but I'm tired of being, it may go either way. Either you're doing it or you're not. And we may add to this list, because, I just sat down and did it based on Scott Efron's and your statements and on the web.
So basically what you're saying is at the end of the day, when this is complete, if they're not declared in the application or denied, then we're gonna be, when we're ready to give them the permit, we can basically say, this permit does not include this.
Right, but I want the
I
applicant
understand,
to
yeah.
say that,
Yep.
because every time we go forward, something else changes.
Right.
And I'm trying to narrow down the chance that we're going to get additional misinformation. And have them declare it's either this or it's this.
Right, so it's either in the application or it's
Or
signed.
they're sign that they're not doing it.
Yep.
So we don't have to worry about commercial racing activities. If you're not gonna do it, declare it.
You might do it, then put
Well,
it in
that's what I'm
the
saying.
application, right?
Right now, there's nothing slated, scheduled, anything like that. It's not campground related. If I sign this right here, we can never do it. This town
Correct,
may-
without coming back and getting a conditional use permit to do that activity. That's what we've been doing here, Gary, for 2 years, is figuring out what you wanna do and what you're not gonna do.
What we're gonna do is what is in the application.
So you're not gonna do this, so let's sign it and move on. Or get Scott Efron's authority to sign it.
I'll do that. I'm not signing this right now. I can't.
Okay.
Is what occurred on Sunday, that Wes rode up here, would that be considered recreational watercross activities?
Absolutely.
Why can't you have recreational? I understand the commercial.
You
I'm not arguing, I'm trying to wrap my head
You can
around
have
it.
it, but it needs to be in here as an activity that you're going to do, because there's a significant space and noise impact.
Okay, I can't sign this because I myself have a watercross sled. If I wanna go there on the property recreational ride that, I'm perfectly welcome to do that. If I sign this, I'm not welcome to do that. So at this time, I can't sign it.
If you have an
Correct.
active campground there, and you haven't obtained a conditional use permit to have watercross activities on the pond, then you would be in violation of the conditional use permit application from my perspective. Right now, if you went out there, yeah, see, and that's the game you guys are playing.
It's not a game, it's a right. If I'm having a commercial event there, that's wrong. I agree with you 100%. If I'm on the property, riding my sled with a couple friends, that's legal. I do not care, that is legal. If I wanna go snowmobiling in December on that property, I'm more than legal to go snowmobiling on a registered snowmobile on that property. I'm not signing that. Wes, is that a violation to ride a snowmobile on my land?
I can't decide if it's a violation now because there hasn't been rules established yet of what is and what isn't.
And recreational snowmobiling isn't covered by this.
So in order to register a snowmobile or an ATV, there will be a law in this next session that says that the noise suppression system may not be altered from factory specs. That looks fairly certain at this point. I don't know if it may ruin watercross, but there's a legislature formed a committee at the end of the last session because there was so many complaints about people taking the mufflers off. And lots of other things. There'll be weight limitations, there'll be size limitations in order to register. So another solution here is just to put in the conditional use permit that vehicles will be registered with the state of Maine. Snowmobiles and ATVs will be registered with the state of Maine and be legal.
Like I said, I agree with you, I'm not arguing about the commercial events, about having races up there,
But
that's not
Gary,
gonna happen.
Gary, you're missing the entire point.
No, it's
When
not.
you have, okay, you're not missing. So my point is if you have a campground, you're operating a commercial activity. If you bring people to that place to watercross on the pond, that is commercial watercross. You're giving them a place and you're paying money to stay there to use the pond as watercross. That's commercial watercross.
We're charging for the campsite, not charging to rent the pond. We're covered for the commercial use of renting the campsite. Use the pond.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not right. It's the commercial use of your property. You know, it's kind of like saying, okay, we're not gonna have any commercial logging, but we're gonna have people who can stay here and cut down as many trees as they want and take the wood with them. That's not commercial logging,
That's different, yeah.
Can I, take a stab at this for a second? So, I think that the responsibility of the planning board in evaluating the CUP is to make sure that any activities that are going to happen at the campground are covered in the CUP. So if there is gonna be, I know there's not gonna be any racing, you know, so that's not in there. But if there's commercial or recreational watercross activities or commercial or recreational snowmobile activities or ATVs, UTVs, no racing, just commercial or recreational, then that's fine. But it needs to be incorporated into the CUP so that we can administer the land use ordinances in consideration of how to manage that activity. You know, it's our job to be concerned about air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution, you know, et cetera, crowds, all those things. So, I think that's the point that we're trying to make here is that if you're in question or at some point in the future want to do any of these activities, then, you know, then we need it in the CUP. Is everybody heads nodding? Yeah?
Sure.
Okay.
See, in other words, don't sign that, but then put something in the permit about whatever it's called, watercross.
We're not asking to have commercial watercross events up there anymore. We're asking what's for in the plans right now. Recreational is a different thing. If this all said commercial, I probably would sign it. But where it says recreational, I'm not interested.
So does that mean that you reserve the right to take the mufflers off your machinery?
Nope.
To do what?
I mean, that's because that's what the CEO's report said, you guys took the mufflers off. And I think that, I'm half deaf, I don't hear this stuff. And also, I think there's a noise block between us, so it doesn't bother me. But I've heard bitter complaints about the noise. And so when I saw the CEO's report, I said, aha, they took the mufflers off. No wonder there's so much noise. So now I'm asking you, would you sign that no machines will have their mufflers taken off?
Yeah, and that's not even the issue for me.
Yeah.
That's not even the issue for me.
I'm just trying to get
Yeah, I
out the
understand,
mind
but-
of
but-
somebody who would making themselves, obnoxious to their neighbors, and then come to those same neighbors and say, please let me do this activity that was so obnoxious. I just don't understand this.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, Joe. I mean, for me, it is, I feel as though the applicant is not being truthful in the activities that they plan to do on the site. And absent a full list of what they plan to do on the site, I have trouble understanding the permit, the application. And I tried to solve that by this document saying, you know, if you read the application, all this is true, that they're not going to do these things, on the site, that they're not gonna do these because it's not in here, it's not even referenced in here. But now the applicant is saying that if they view it as a recreational activity, they don't feel constrained in any way. And that makes me seriously concerned.
Let me ask you this. If it's not in there, and we have a race up there, doesn't that make it easy for you guys to reprimand us? If we do it illegally? I'm telling you,
We don't enforce.
Right now, the land's open, we have room for racing. Once it's a campground, it's gonna be a campground. You don't go racing through campsites, you don't go racing through. I'm asking you, that's our application, we're submitting to you. I'm not signing this, we're not having a racetrack up there. I'm gonna ride my snowmobile, I'm gonna ride my four-wheeler. I'm gonna have friends ride up there. We're not having any commercial events. If we do wanna have a commercial event, I'll come back and sit down in front of you and ask. But as of right now, there's nothing going on up there, commercially.
So what's it mean to be commercial to you? So what's the definition of a commercial activity for you?
I would assume making money, charging, renting.
So if somebody brings their watercross vehicle to the campground, rents a campground for an event, and goes.
No event, there's no racing event.
Okay, so rents a campground, and there happens to be 10 other people there with watercross machines, and they go and wanna do a watercross activity on the pond, after renting a cabin, that to you is not commercial.
No. It's commercial as far as renting a cabin, yes, 100%, and that's what we're asking to do.
So if you.
But isn't part of the, like, when you're offering practice runs, because we learned from our CEO, winners have to practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if people can come to the pond and practice, that's drawing them to your campsite and it's from their business, right?
So, let me clarify one important thing. When I look at the application, the only motorized vehicle that I see referenced in the application is ATVs. I don't think it mentions snowmobiles, it doesn't mention UTVs, it certainly doesn't mention snowmobiles modified for watercross activities. So, the way I would interpret that is that people who rent at the campground can ride ATVs recreationally according to the rights and limitations and conditions that will be in the CUP for ATVs. There's no snowmobiling covered, there's no UTVs covered, no motorbikes covered, no snowmobiles covered, and no watercross devices covered. Is that correct?
That's what's in there, yeah, correct. The only, vehicles that I was aware of were ATVs. For snowmobiles, it's only open from May to, November, October, whatever it is, so that wouldn't be in that window anyhow.
Right. So, your comment about, you and your friends, doing that stuff there, once it's a campground, and I'll go back what David's saying, if you want to do those things with snowmobiles or UTVs or motorbikes or watercross adapted snowmobiles, then they need to be in there. Does that make sense, Gary?
Partially, yes.
Shall we proceed on the, at least what we have here? Okay, thank you. For reference, here is this is Marston's Pond down here. This is Marston's Road along the bottom of the plan. We have Upper Twain Road coming through the site, and hooking on to Deacon Road, which runs, along here.
Is Deacon Road a private road?
Deacon Road was a former town road, but I believe it's completely private at this point. Yes.
It's abandoned.
Yeah.
It's gone more than 30 years, not been maintained by the town, it's abandoned road.
Has the town officially abandoned it?
The town dealt with the Deacon's Road from Marston's Pond Road out to the Pequawket Trail. And, by not maintaining it for 30 years prior to 1941 or something, and by a vote, and I can't remember the exact date, whether it was 27 or 29, that the town voted it, not to maintain it anymore and to give up all its rights.
I want to clarify that we're talking about the portion of Deacon Road between Marston's Pond Road and the old Town Farm Road.
Yes.
From the Town Farm Road to Route 113 is maintained by the town.
But from Marston's Pond Road on, the town did not deal with it.
Right. And that's something.
And that's a very complicated situation
Are you
because.
aware of this complexity?
Well, I'm not the surveyor, but there's no right of way that the surveyor found around it. I believe he thought it was, this is one block of the applicant's property. So I believe right now, the road is, hasn't been maintained in any sort as someone said, about 10 feet wide gravel. So I don't believe, I have no knowledge that it's a town road. I've been told that it isn't, but I'm not the surveyor that did the research on it.
So are you going based on the assumption that it's not a town road? Is that the assumption
Correct.
of your project? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So right now, Deacon Road right now is between 8 and 10 feet of broken gravel and stone. What we're planning to do is, so here is the original phase one. So a couple things to note. One, we now show the 250-foot setback from Marston's Pond, Upper Pond, and a 100-foot setback from the stream between the two. Okay, so that's your shoreland zone that you adopted, some time ago, a year or two ago. So we have.
Have you looked into the status of Marston's Pond? What is that considered? Is that a private pond?
It's underneath. It's less than 30 acres. So it's a man-made pond. DEP looks at it as a stream with stream-associated wetlands. So for them, their setback is based upon the stream channel and then the wetlands associated with that and up. Your ordinance calls this a pond, a shoreline zone. So we've identified 250 feet from the shoreline as your ordinance stipulates.
So do you have any declaration from DEP what they consider that? You said they consider it a stream?
Correct. So it is 23 acres in size, and so in this state, it's a man-made pond, dam controlled. It's about 2.5 to 3 feet deep across the whole thing. It was created as a dam again. It was created by blocking it up, and they backed up the stream and created a large shallow pond way back in the day.
So the only reason I ask is because waterway with snowmobiles is illegal. And there's only certain types of inland water that you can go over, with snowmobiles.
Yeah, correct, and I'm not an expert in.
Yeah, no, so I'm
Yeah.
just curious to kind of follow that up, to
Yeah,
what DEP has considered, if they considered it a river or a stream, that's a different designation than a great pond.
correct, so a great pond is 30 acres or larger, so if this were, even were man-made and were 35 acres, it would be considered a pond, water with the state, or, a pond. Because it's smaller than that, they look at it as a large wetland. And they would go back to the original condition, which was a stream going through, and use that. So, that doesn't mean that it's not protected, because right now there are now wetlands of special significance there, and there are, wading bird and waterfowl habitat, and there's, there's fish in there. So it's a stream, but there's now significant wetlands associated with it, but it's a gray area whether they could just move the dam and drain the whole thing now, because there's, ecosystem associated with that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No problem. So our entire project is located, to the north of Marston's Road. So the old area had, originally, if you remember, we had 250 sites. They were, all up in this area, which is fairly steep. They were gonna be originally a bunch of RV sites, and some cabins, and we had a large amount of tenting area over here. This is among the steepest areas of the property. So what we've done is, this area will be just tenting and cabins, and perhaps some small areas on the low side, but it's really too steep for the average RV driver to go up and navigate those roads. So it's going to be just tenting. So it's certainly navigable in a car, or for tenting, or if there are cabins up there built in place, that's completely suitable for that. We have the necessary bathrooms located around there, so everyone's within. Well, they're all on water, and they have access to the bathroom and electricity hookup. But what we have now is, so we have 300 total. So before we had 250 in a really a pretty small area, which obviously Nature's Wilderness, you have a very large site, and we're packing them all in one small area. What we've done, now we have 300 total. But what we're proposing to do is go make the connection. This right here, Upper Twain Road, here's the town road, I believe, or was. It goes, the improved area ends about here. Then it's about a 10-foot wide gravel path that goes up this hill to Deacon Road. This entire area over here, all this infrastructure right here, is going to be an 18-foot wide road that's able to be traveled from both directions. Outside of this existing hill is about 13-14%, it's fairly steep. Once we get beyond that, all new roads are 8% or less. Most of them are 5% or even less than that. Right here, these are pretty much flat coming in on contour. We have a connection across. So as far as public safety is concerned, these are all two-way streets in here. If this is too much for some folks to deal with, they can come in along here in this entrance and have access either way, or come through this way and access their site that way. So there's multiple ways in and out of the site. Additionally,
I like that much better. I like this design makes me much more comfortable about people getting out.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, we've put an emphasis on visibility and safety and getting cars in, because obviously some RV drivers are not experienced. And so if you have two coming across, you need plenty of room. Additionally, we have at least one pullout every 300 to 400 feet. So in addition to 18 feet, plus a drivable ditch, we have these 10-foot wide bump outs, that if someone's not comfortable passing another RV coming, they can go and seek refuge and completely pull off the road and wait for the others to pass. So if there is an emergency and there's a fire truck coming, folks can completely pull off the road. Fire truck would have a full 18-foot wide gravel road that they could pass.
So just 18 feet, what's the width of like 113 or like?
Center
Black Road.
Center Black Road, I think, is a 20-foot wide paved section. So what we have here for our section, though, because we don't want if we were to have, so the sites, right now are, we have several graded out that we don't need to show, we don't have, they're not shown. But we have the sites, we have a number of permitted, and we know what's draining to which culvert and which level spreader and which buffer. But the likelihood is that there's less than 300 sites on here. Because if you walk, when we get to the site walk, and you walk this area, there are some areas where there's ledge outcroppings and it just wouldn't, they're not gonna blast, into, a hill to create a site. So, in order to not have super expensive, infrastructure, we don't have a typical 2-foot deep ditch on the uphill side. So the sites go, maybe 2 or 3 sites go to a cross culvert and down. The ditch on the uphill side is only about 6 inches deep. There's gonna be a stone crossing to each of the sites. So in addition to your 18 feet of gravel width, you have a fully drivable, 5-foot wide ditch on the uphill side. So, that's, your road gravels will extend, all the way out. So it really is, probably a 23, 24 foot wide, fully stable surface. So as far as, Dover Campground Road, these are gonna be, very safe and passable. Difficult to see on here, but you can see in your packets better. We do have, an entire series of level spreaders to stormwater buffers. So what we've done is we've evaluated the slopes on this entire hillside and identified all areas that are 15% grade or less. Those areas meet the DEP criteria for stormwater buffers. So we have designed the entire thing around stormwater flows to make sure that basically water stays distributed, is getting the full water quality treatment that the DEP requires, and it's going to be holding, for the large part, the stormwater flows to pre-development levels. Now, this existing developed area right here, we're proposing to catch this entire, have a ditch on the uphill side of Upper Twain Road. That's going to drain down this way to a cross culvert. They have right now a pond down there. That pond will be retrofit into be a full stormwater pond, meeting DEP criteria. It's going to be a large wet pond, slightly larger than it is now. DEP's criteria, they have very set side slope requirements, 3-to-1 side slopes going in, 2-to-1 in the permanent pool. It will have an under drain bench that is water quality. Basically, DEP has 2 different water quality criteria. They have their basic water quality standards, which is they take the contributing area and you take, for a wet pond, 2.5 inches over the entirety of the impervious area going into it, plus 1.5 inches of all of the grass area. That gives you your permanent pool volume. Above that, they have their cooling volume. So they have their stream protection volume. And so that volume is a lesser amount, but the same components. So it might be 1 inch over the impervious area and 0.4 inches over the grass. And that area is stored, there's a bench with an under drain underneath it. That area exits the pond through the under drain, cools off, and heads out to the street.
Is that is that pond the reference for the fire suppression?
Correct. So
you said about 1 million gallons?
There's a lot more than that in that pond right now, and there will be more. Now, one thing that we're talking with DEP about, so the water quality volume, the stream protection volume in particular, in this pond doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because we could cool the water down here, put it back in here, and we have we have a 25, 23 acre pond that is 2 feet deep. So what DEP is likely going to allow us to do is, rather than put the bench on an under drain outlet on this pond, they'll let us put it down by the dam side, which we will then be able to have the water coming out of this pond, coming out on the downstream side of the dam, be cooled and should rehabilitate whatever stream is existing below the dam.
That makes sense.
So, obviously that's up to DEP, but
It'll be cool. Yeah, it'll be cool. So did did you have to go back to DEP and get a new stormwater
So
management?
this is, all part of a site location permit application. DEP strongly suggests that we get at least through this portion of town process, so that they're not in the business of reviewing something and then modifying it. So if we went back to them with a major modification, they would take another 6-8 months to review it, if they look at it as a brand new project. So we really wanted to get, so we've had preliminary meetings with them and meetings with the engineer, and we've agreed upon the nuts and bolts, but they haven't gone through and done their final review. And so that really needs to happen after we get a good feeling that, you know, we get your input, that you're generally on board with, at least, I know there's issues with uses and those kind of things, but the nuts and bolts of the plan, the hardscape, the impervious area, the stormwater, you know, those kind of things that we have a good idea that when we submit DEP, that's generally what's going to be, you know, coming out of you guys. And, you know,
I think we're gonna lean pretty heavily on leachate for that. I mean, you know, for me, I mean, I like this, you know, unfortunately, it looks a lot like a subdivision, but, I like this better than the cluster. It does, and so in terms of the design, I mean, I would really rely on Lead-J, and, you know, personally, Lead-J to let us know if you've got your I's dotted and your T's crossed, because I just wouldn't know. I mean, it's just, I mean, I like this better, but, he may have other thoughts. So that's, you know, that's more Lead-J's situation.
Sure.
It looks like you're using the road, so would you be pushing traffic into the internal structure instead of back out on the road?
Yeah, so we have provided, so this is a stream right down through here, and we're proposing a crossing of that stream. Now, that means that we have a very large arch culvert in there, very expensive, but we're assuming really that the town is not gonna want to encourage folks within this development to have to use the town road to go from point A to point B.
That's the problem, especially if you have ATV traffic, because they can't technically go out on that road.
Town road, correct.
It's a town road.
So we put this in here, and it's easily accessible from several directions to get right on site. So if folks are coming from their site and they decide to drive over to get a bite to eat, they can stay entirely within the campground grounds.
Yeah, I like that.
And so beyond that, we have going to utilities. So there is one of the items that we had in there. There's a letter from the Natural Areas Program. What those folks do is they identify potential endangered or threatened species within the area. Now, their letter came up with nothing that was here. However, when we looked on anytime we're doing stream crossings or wetlands, we have to deal with Army Corps of Engineers as well. And they use the Fish and Wildlife website. They have a different database. And so there was potential for something called the Small World Begonia to be within 5 miles of the area, basically. And so we did have a specialist walk the site, and lo and behold, they found 4 small plants. First time that he's ever found the Small World Begonia in his life. He was really excited about it. Actually, but
through in that report, actually.
Scott said it was a unique property, so.
Yeah. So,
And then it referenced that the campsite would be at least 300 feet away.
correct. So it's not in a spot that it poses any real issue. So we've sent these plans off to the National Areas Program, and they're looking at it, and, you know, initial discussions that they're used to maybe a 100-foot buffer around the whole thing. We've got at least, you know, even if we say, okay, well, this site might be in a little bit, 50 feet off the road at the furthest point of disturbance, you know, we've got at least 250 feet from either direction.
You have to like put up signs saying.
Well, it's gonna be restricted
And people are gonna be like, what the heck is it? And they're gonna.
I mean, it's gonna be impossible to find.
Put it on the website as an attraction.
I mean, did you see the picture?
Yeah.
It's federally protected.
Yeah, I know, it's
You
just
could
amazing.
find it unless you have a degree.
Yeah, so there's no proposed trails or anything by it. It's down, tucked in by the wetland that cuts
But I
through here.
also don't know what a small world begonia needs for habitat.
Yeah, I mean, basically my understanding, they grow down, on the base of steeper slopes, and they're extremely rare.
So with the expansion of the project, it seems like you're moving off the 157 base, what'd you call it,
Project site,
development site or project site?
we didn't move beyond that, did we, Jeff? We're still from Deacon Road down through, it's just more clustered in the area, but we still have Deacon Road as a
Yeah,
division.
we did originally have, so we've gone, trying to, having back and forth over the years, we had originally, back in the start, we had some lots, some development down here. That's gone, there was some vernal pools found down by the end, the whole area has been rehabilitated and revegetated, by that portion, and I believe they're actually decided to take out the rest of the road, because it's a road to nowhere, and it doesn't serve any purpose. So that will all be revegetated on this side. There's nothing happening down there. So then we came back in and we had tried to delineate the campground area. And so we did have, the boundary survey that you have in there shows, coming up over here and going down Deacon Road and saying that's our site. However, you guys were adamant that we could not do that we had to stick with the tax map and lot number, which obviously, gets rid of that internal boundary.
Well, I mean, I'm just adamant that we need to deal with the entire parcel in this conditional use permit application.
Yeah, so for our DEP submission, we will have a campground area that they're gonna look at under their review, so we don't need to have soil survey information for the back, 1,000 acres.
Right, but for our purpose, I mean, I still would like to see I would still like to know what the 860 acres looks like. I mean, I've still never seen a map that shows the 860
Well,
acres.
I think there is a boundary survey that was done that shows the property as we show it, and the issue is that the boundary is way off the site. So what we've done with the survey.
Hold on.
Okay.
It's not off the site, because you're going to utilize that property for activities associated with the campground. So it's only off the development site, it's not off the use of the site. The use of the site's the entire 860 acres. So that's why I keep going back to, it's the entire 860 acres. I mean, that's what Scott uses on the website, so that's the figure I keep using. But, so I just wanna correct you, that it's not just that. It's the entirety of, you have trails. I mean, I saw there were some ATV trails you're planning. I don't know if that's within this or if it's broader, but there's definitely planned uses outside of what's on this map. So the entire 860 acres is in front of us. But we haven't got anything that tells us what that 860 acres looks like.
Okay, I know the surveyor does have the old boundary, and used it to create, so he has stamped the lines that are close to this development, but we.
But you see what I'm saying, I mean,
Correct.
because I said this from day one, if you're gonna have people hiking, they need to know when to stop. And, your neighbors aren't coming in to ask for a permit to have a campground, it's just this property. So I envision a sign that says, you're at the end of nature's wilderness property, please respect the boundary. If you wanna have an agreement with your neighbor, then, we've had that discussion and there's a disagreement as to what that might look like, but once you get off that 860 acres, you're no longer on the campground, and I think you're gonna have to have signs, if anybody's hiked trails, there's signs at the edge of the conservation land, or the property owner who's willing to let people go on it, saying, you're at the end of the property, please stop and respect our neighbor's rights. So.
I believe, so that is the intent, is to have they told me that they're planning on having signs. So the boundary is blazed out in the field, I believe, but.
The trails that are existing, that we're using and proposed, none of them leave the property. And so there's nothing really to post as far as do not exit. They all loop and stay on the property, well within the bounds.
I just have never seen a map that shows me what that looks like.
the DATV map?
No, the
No, the 860 acre.
It's not like this is a new issue. I've said it at least 20 times. Okay, and we'll keep going, sorry.
Okay, so we have, bathrooms located within 500 feet of every site, throughout the development. There's some in the clubhouse, some here, up there. In addition to that, we have 3, septic dumping stations, which are gonna be in-ground tanks. They're located, there's one here, one along the main thoroughfare here, and then one down by the exit. Those are obviously DEP regulated. Tanks, there are strict specifications that those have to adhere to, and those will meet that. By the bathrooms, also we have, we're proposing, a small dumpster for each of those locations that will be, handled by the staff, brought to a larger dumpster, that they will have private contracting to come and remove the refuse from the site. There are several wells located throughout. The wells have to be located at least 300 feet from the nearest septic system.
So I'm sorry, are you saying every site will have a dumpster?
No, every bathroom site. So there are within 500 feet of each site, there's a bathroom facility, and next to the bathroom is going to be a dumpster, a small dumpster for those within the area to use.
It does say in our land use ordinance that every site has to have a trash receptacle.
They will have a trash
Yeah,
can,
it's
like
not the
as far as dumpster
Yeah,
beds,
they wanna empty
every
out.
site will have a trash can, but they can lug the dumpster dumped in. If you don't want a bunch of trash cans sitting around, you want an enclosed dumpster that has things around it.
Correct. And so, based upon that, we also have, as I said, we have several proposed wells throughout that'll be permitted through the state of Maine. Those wells have very specific setbacks from certain stormwater facilities and the septic facilities.
Have to be tested every 6 months, state drinking water.
No development around the upper pond?
Correct. There is an existing path that runs through there.
Yeah.
However, most of it's located within the 250-foot setback of that, so we didn't feel it was wise to pursue that.
Okay.
So really, we looked at what we had, with the connection up through to Deacon Road already there. This loop exists, so it made the most sense to use that as the primary thoroughfare. And then find ways that were kind of on grade, relatively flat, that would be safely and easily navigable for all level of drivers and for public safety vehicles. As you did know, we also have the dry hydrant located right down here, conveniently right where the chief wanted it. Huge amount of volume in there, so both that will be there for winter and summer, obviously. Unfortunately, this is not deep enough up here to put one in. Again, that's only probably 2 feet deep, right anywhere near the edges, might be a bit deep in the middle, but you need 2 feet off the bottom for your suction screen, and then you need to have, ice storage, from the top down. So there's really no allowable volume, in the upper pond or the lower pond, for that matter. So we have to, this stormwater pond, really needs to be in that location for public safety purposes, and it also treats all the runoff from this entire area coming into it, so dual purpose. So I guess, beyond that's the nuts and bolts of it. Happy to answer any questions you have about the layout.
So it was 300?
300.
300 sites. Now, that's a combination of the RV sites, the tent sites, and the cabins, right?
Correct. So on the cover sheet of the plan, we did break down how many we have for each. Now, that said, so for stormwater purposes, we have assumed all these are the largest impact. So the largest impact is a large RV parked on the site that's going to require a 10 by 40 pad with a driveway going to it. Obviously, a tent site is much smaller, you need a 10 by 20 parking space. So it doesn't mean we're proposing that we have a certain amount, at a minimum, a certain amount of tent sites and a certain amount of cabin sites. size to be kind of the worst case scenario, the ones that would have the most traffic, that would have the most stormwater, and they can make it smaller, if they decide on the site. But, you know, we wanted to permit it so that it was kind of the biggest impact possible, so that they can always pare down to what makes sense on each site. Because some areas it's fairly steep off the road, you can get a little driveway in. Some areas are better suited for a, you know, one parking spot and tent site. So we want to have that flexibility in there. So we figured if we permitted the you know, the most intensive use on this entire site over here, then that would give them flexibility to work it around for what really fit on each site. Because certainly the intent is to preserve as many trees and you know, the local campsites, keep them in the woods if at all possible. So that brings up this is going to, because of the amount of traffic, this is going to require a DOT traffic movement permit. That permit has been prepared, and so after the meeting tonight, the engineer will go meet with DEP. And because this is more than 100 peak hour trips, DOT is looking at certainly the intersections onto each end of 113 and likely the Senator Blacksburg Road connecting through. So, you know, DOT will be looking at all that stuff. The applicant, depending upon the perceived impacts, will likely have to do intersection improvements at the very least to one or both
All the
ends.
traffic work is gonna be based on the 300.
300, yes. And so one of the questions I know that you had, is there a difference between a tent site or an RV site? Unfortunately, the traffic study documents are not that specific. So, you know, I think they're mostly RV, they're mostly considered short-term duration. If there were some longer-term duration folks out here, their traffic would be less, they're gonna be on site.
Let me answer that. Gary, most of the campgrounds that I've been to, they have a section of the campground reserved for seasonal use, and there's only a certain amount of it, and it's almost like 2/3 seasonal use and 1/3 just people coming in for a couple of nights or a week or something like that. Do you have any idea how you're gonna proportion that for Nature's Wilderness?
There's no way to proportion, we're gonna offer seasonal sites.
Yeah.
Obviously, would prefer seasonal sites. It'd be nicer if they came in and set up their camper and had the vehicle to drive back and forth. That'd be the best. It all depends on what they wanna rent. But no, we are gonna offer seasonal sites.
Basically, any RV site would be a.
Could be a seasonal if they choose to pay the fee.
So when you talk about the DOT permit and the travel, it's super important, these things that we were talking about earlier, about the amphitheater, about commercial or recreational watercross activities, because you weren't here, but when they were talking about doing the watercross event, the numbers that they were talking about were between 800 and 1,000. So that was
Certainly that is not reflected in the
that
traffic.
would totally change the traffic survey if that was contemplated. Like any large group activity would fundamentally change the traffic survey. So
Correct, if it were a regular activity. So it depends upon the interval of those things that we put. So if it was doing something that they were gonna offer and they were gonna have, weekly or whatever it would be, then there's a certain threshold where DOT would say, okay, that is the use of here, and it's a regular, everyday thing, and it's not a special event.
yeah, I don't know what that threshold is, but I caution you that if the applicant's not disavowing that use, you better put it in your DOT, information, because.
I'll have a discussion with them after this, and we'll make sure that.
Because that's a pretty big issue for us, if we have 1,000 people coming in and out on a weekend. Anything else, any questions from the crowd? Yes, sir.
Well, we keep hearing 300 sites. How many people are gonna be on this place?
I would say 4 people per site, I mean.
So that's 1,200 right there. That's a pretty big impact for a rural area. And they're coming right through our road. So,
Absolutely.
big impact. This is not just a little mom and pop thing. That's a lot of people, a lot of vehicles, a lot of garbage, a lot of noise. That's our beef.
So I just did a quick calculation. If you have 300 sites, let's assume a third of them if you ever have full occupancy.
That's what you have to plan for, I'm guessing.
Right. A third have 2 people, a third have 3 people, and a third have 4 people. You know, some could be more.
900.
Probably less. But, yeah, 900.
I know what you're saying.
So, in 2010, the population of, Baldwin was listed at 1525. So, you know, you increase the population by 900, you know, it's
Significant.
yeah, it doesn't double it, but it, you know, 900 divided by 1525 is 60%. So you're basically increasing the population of the town by at least 60% if it's fully occupied. Just to give a sense of impact on resources.
Any other, yes, sir.
Yeah, I talked about Marston Pond Road South. Marston Pond Road North was not, the town didn't take care of back when they took care of Marston Pond Road South. And I would, especially if this is going to be gated, I would strongly recommend that you get an article in the warrant for the next town meeting to have the town give up all of its rights to have a right-of-way on, you say, there are 2 roads there, not just the Deacon's Road, Deacon's Road and, Upper Twain, because road law is, it's more complicated than any other kind of law. It's if this time frame, then it's that, if it's 10 years later, it's something else, and it keeps on going. I did it for my property. I have, twice I've put in articles in the town warrant to clean things up, you know, and I recommend you do the same, because somebody could challenge that you have a gate if it's across a road that has a town right.
We're not putting the gate on Mark.
I'm sorry, Deacon's Road and Upper Twain. You're saying Upper Twain was a town road, which I didn't know.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's private.
Oh, okay, then.
But there's so many
Deacon's
Deacons,
Road.
though, I think.
It's, I mean, Johnny Flynn lived there,
If you look in the paperwork, it's just discontinued it.
but then there's an underlying right of way
That you can't block.
that you can't block. The underlying right of way is still there. It may be abandoned, but that doesn't mean somebody can't use it.
Anyways, that's an interesting, I mean, we'll need somebody to tell us what the answer is. I don't know.
If there's a right of way, we just don't put a gate on that end, people, they want to.
I mean, you guys want to control it, and I think that's probably a good idea. You know, I mean, control is good in this case. Especially you got 900 people, and it's July 4th weekend, and, you know, it's gonna be crazy, and you don't want people, I mean, we want to control it because you are going to be saying what can be done and what can't be done, and if it's a public right of way, then another 1,000 people could go and line the road, and you couldn't stop them.
Yeah, I don't know what we're exactly talking about, but, I mean, I kind of get the gist, but we'll have to get into the details on this. I mean, I would look to Lee J to kind of tell us, you know, maybe do some research on it too. So, somebody's got to tell us it's okay, I just don't know. So, any other yes, sir?
The layout of the campsites, when you go up Upper Twain Road and then the hills to the west side, is there a tenting up there?
Correct.
Describe what the tenting is like.
A tent site will have it's required to have a minimum, every site is required to have a minimum of a 10 by 20 parking space, a fire pit, a trash disposal, and then for the tent sites will have, a flat grass pad, that maybe I think 20 by 20.
So tents are provided on like a wood platform?
People
People bring their own tents, yeah, nothing's pre-set up there.
Then what is around, the Upper Twain Pond there, primitive campsite? What's the difference of that between, and the primitive?
Well, a primitive campsite is one that has no water care facilities within 500 feet. So we don't have any primitive, sites. So a primitive campsite is one where basically it's one per 20,000 square feet. You're out in the middle of the woods and you let nature take its course
That's
wherever.
what you do in the White Mountains.
Okay,
You go.
what I wanna get, I'm trying to hear from you, get clear, the primitive campsite is what family brings in their own tent.
No.
So primitive campsite has to do with septic availability, basically. But so the tent sites are going to be just like an RV site. They're going to come with their own stuff, park in their vehicle, pull the tent out, set it up, and go camping like that. So there'll be a site set up for them, so they can nice flat pad for them to go and set their tent on.
That's primitive.
It's just gonna be, either be forest floor or grass, but some type of stabilized, pervious surface. So it'll be, it won't be a gravel pad. If they decide if it's poor, ground materials, they might put gravel down and then with, a few inches of loam over the top of it, seed it and loam it so that it maintains, some type of, permeability.
But you can have glamping sites, like Tenter has, you ever see the Tenter site, where they have their little nice wood frames and
We have, our glamping site, we call it a log cabin. It's a small cabin.
okay.
They won't have their own plumbing, so it's gonna be,
No, we don't have bathrooms, no, we got a cold water, okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
This may have already been covered, but where Upper Twain meets, Deacon Road, way up at the pond, that's the, old Queenstown plantation. I was wondering if there's any plans on protecting that.
I think, is that
That's the foundation.
Okay, up here, yeah, so there's a foundation just beyond here, and there's some tunnels. I think that there's nothing, the intent was to stay away from that. That's one of the.
Yeah, well, you got sites fairly close.
Exactly.
There's some back to the side of that intersection, some, foundations and stuff. I'm just wondering if there was any plans to.
The foundation I've seen is back, in this area here.
They are on that side too.
Okay.
It's four of them on the road.
We're staying away from the foundation.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any plans on protecting it. I mean, there's a lot of people right up there.
Beyond staying away from it, actively protecting it.
That's a heck of a site up there. I don't know if you've been there,
We're trying to preserve what's up there, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, everything from the applicant has driven me around the site in an ATV many times. And, the intent certainly is that anything that has, historic value, that would have, interest to folks is gonna be preserved, and maintained as is. That would make no sense to really,
Yeah, when I was
value
there,
the property.
there were logging operations very close to it and stuff, and I think, this is an awful shame, So I just wondered if there's anything.
But it didn't get disturbed, did it?
What's that?
It didn't get disturbed, did it?
It got close, but it didn't.
But that's a great attraction for us.
Right.
And I would like to, if you go up past them, looking on the right-hand side, it's a big open area.
Mhm.
My plan is to clean that up, put some picnic tables over there, with laminated history of Flintstown, so people can hike up through there, sit on the tables, eat their lunch,
And respect the area.
and respect the area, yes.
Any other questions people have?
How big is the campground that you've got right there? How many acres?
This is, our total watershed is about 300. I think it's about 150 acres, around, in this area right here. So about 150 within bounds.
So everything that applies to that applies to the whole piece, right? That 860 acres? So if they wanna do anything else, they've gotta apply for more permits outside the campground.
Correct. And on top of that, this will have, at the very least, a DEP site location permit and a DOT traffic movement permit. So those permits, if you make any changes at all to either of those, you have to go and refile a brand new permit, for those things. So if they decided one down the road to, well, this is a wild success and we wanna, they'd have to go through and start from square one, from anything new. We'd be back here with a new, back here for a new CUP, because the CUP is based upon a number of sites. We'd be back to DOT with new traffic information and new impact analysis of the road and the intersections, and then back to DEP for, obviously any new stormwater or, any wetland crossings, anything like that.
And that's why we call it the project site, because like David just said, everybody said, it is X amount of acres that's large, we're only gonna disturb, we're asking to build this right here, nothing more. And it won't, 300 is the best case scenario, that's not gonna happen, because if you go up Deacon Road, where some of them sites are, there's huge ledges, you've seen them up there, I'm sure, that obviously can't be a site, it just financially doesn't make any sense to do so.
Very primitive.
Yeah.
So I mean, the reality is, we have 300, but we're trying to be conservative, so that if we, obviously, for stormwater and for traffic, that we say, okay, here's our peak number of trips that we could get out of this thing, that the numbers will be lower for both stormwater and for traffic, because no one wants to push those boundaries, really, so that's how that will work.
Do you have any future plans or near plans to have a convenience store there?
I think there's only, so they do have in the application, they're gonna have a general store for the folks in the park, so that they have basic,
My thought is, where, other than Saturdays, one group of campers going out, and Sunday, new campers coming in, if you don't have a convenience store where they can say, oh, I need more ketchup and relish for my hamburgers, or the 3 to 5 o'clock beer run for the night, you're gonna have a lot of traffic during the week.
I think the intent is that they'll have the basics, on site, milk, bread.
We talked about, we wasn't limited to, and stuff.
Yeah, something we should think about when we finalize the hours for this, and what you guys maybe have already thought of it, but a lot of the campgrounds that I go to are very, specific about when you can come in and when you have to leave. In other words, they don't want you arriving at the campground before 1 o'clock. And when you leave, you have to be out by 11. Because they're trying to do two things. They're trying to control the flow of traffic so you don't have the ingress and the egress or whatever at the same time. And then it gives them time to clean up the campgrounds. So
And that's in the hours of operation, and check-in time, and check-out time,
Any other questions?
I just have a comment, because I can't keep my mouth shut. Basically, to me, I've been sitting here for a couple of years now and listening to the ins and the outs, and I think Glenna said the most important thing a couple of weeks ago, and the word respect is what she used, and I have seen over the last 2 years a tremendous amount of disrespect, not only for all of us that have to listen to the noise for the events that supposedly aren't happening there, but also the lack of caring about what might be happening in our neighborhood. I will say that Scott lied to me a couple of times. I will say that Gary lied to me a couple of times. Respect about the foundations. I understand on the website that there was a moonshine thing going on up there. That's not respect to the Flint, to the town, to anything else. And it worries me. Pretty much every Sunday, the past month or so anyway, there have been 9 motorcycles that have gone by my house. Yes, they're licensed, they're legal, but they're in the back and they're making all kinds of noise. I understand that things change. I really have no problem with a campground. 300 people scare me. 300 vehicles scare me. 900 people even more so. I don't feel that Nature's Wilderness and those that are affiliated with it have been honest to the town, have been honest to their neighbors, really care about what's going on. And it's nice to have a gentleman up here explaining the campground, but it's to me to the owner and the manager. And I do have problems with them. And no, I wasn't the person that Joe was talking about that called last week and complained about the noise. I wasn't home.
That was me.
Oh, good, I'm glad somebody else did.
And I didn't complain, I just heard the racing pretty loud from my, inside the house with the windows open from my porch and the screen porch, so, you know, I gave Wes a call and said, can you, check out what's, happening there, and that's why he wrote the report, so.
Well, I'm glad that he did, and I'm glad that it.
And later on, I got a comment from Paul Thomas too.
Oh.
Anything else?
I got one thing, the 9 dirt bikes that you're seeing, are they affiliated with us, even on our property? No, they're
They
not.
never were there before your
They
property.
said they were, they stopped at my house and said they were going to charity run, and they were going up to the campground, and they wanted to come up to my yard. I pushed them up to the pit and asked them to go up there instead. But they said they were associated with your campground.
Right, and we told them Marston Road is not our jurisdiction, go for it. Cause they're cutting down through, they're starting in New Hampshire, charity ride.
Yeah.
It comes all the way down through Baldwin, over to Sebago, Gorham, loops back up through.
They were very respectful, the guys
Yeah,
talked.
but they really truly have
He was good.
nothing to do with us.
I didn't want that many motorcycles going through my yard, but, you know.
He said there's gonna be about 170 up there.
Any other comments? So the only, additional things I have is, for those of you who had an opportunity to read the, submission, the last piece of information that we, well, back in October, November of last year, we gave Nature's Wilderness a list of things that we wanted them to do in order to have a complete application. Technically, we've received the application, but we haven't declared it complete yet. And we gave them a list of things that we wanted them to do, one of which was, the only remaining thing that was on the list, back then, was that there was a dispute between the town of Baldwin and Nature's Wilderness regarding the, regarding the road. And that the, town of Baldwin had determined that they needed to make an agreement with Nature's Wilderness, regarding the road. And, as part of that, I guess the town thought a bond needed to be obtained. And so our ask related to that was that we get a copy of the agreement and the bond, as part of the application.
Doesn't the bond have to be?
So we did not receive a copy of the agreement yet. So
You received one of them before, didn't you?
We never had one.
we've never had one.
There is a bond in place now for $40,000.
It's a bond, but not a copy.
So we asked for a copy of
And
the
there's also-
agreement.
And there's, you should have that. Yeah, I probably got one then, or I can look one up. And there's also,
It's the applicant's responsibility to give us documents.
there's also a certificate of insurance that we asked for.
So then,
And that's
so
taken
then
care of too.
there's a bond in the, there's a performance bond in the materials that were submitted, and a power of attorney of some sort, and, an insurance binder. But we don't have the agreement, which I don't even know what the agreement's for, frankly, but the bond, is, on behalf of Gary Brown, DBA Brown Construction, for the reconstruction and redefinition of Marston's Road. So what was your question?
Just like the CUP has to be signed by the owner of property, I was under the impression that the performance bond needs to be, done with the owner of the property as well, because if, Scott, if Gary quits, or if Scott fires him, and Gary's no longer there, I have no idea whether this bond would, still be valid or not.
That's what the bond covers. They're saying the project is gonna be finished. We have to work with the road commissioner. He's inspecting it as we go. When it's done, the bond is lifted. If I default, I'm the one doing the project. If I default, the town gets paid. That's what the bond is.
Within 1 year.
So,
It's a time constraint.
So is that part of the agreement that we don't have?
who's the agreement with?
Me. Written by David Laurie.
And so selectmen, because you're in your role as selectman, so you're telling the planning board that the agreement and the bond, we don't have the agreement, but I assume it'll be given to us. The agreement and the bond are, acceptable to the town?
Yeah.
And we don't really have any say one way, that's where I was going with it. I don't think it's really our place to say yes or no. It seems odd, I get you, but.
Was there a reason why the bond didn't come through Nature's Wilderness LLC, or, can you explain that?
Well, I'm the one doing the work, and if I was putting my name on it and being held to it, if I default on this, the bond pays the town, then they come after me. So I want to be solely in charge of this.
As a reminder, I think when I first initiated the CUP application 2 years ago, Barry had to get a power of attorney.
Yeah, and again, that's why I asked the question, if the selectmen voted to approve this, I don't think it's I don't think it's for us to question that, it's just notably unusual.
You've questioned things they've done before.
I have never done that, never. So, so I'll ask the question to Gary, because I alluded to it before, but, is there a boundary survey for the 860 acres?
Yes.
Okay. Can we get a copy of that?
Yes.
Okay. That would be helpful. So we have the agreement with the town, we have the boundary survey for the 860 acre property. I didn't realize it was this different. I didn't, when I read the application, I just didn't visually seeing it. I mean, it's a totally different project, obviously. So Matt Fricker mentioned earlier that it would be far easier for him if we had one application with all the exhibits, pages numbered all the way through, instead of this compilation of material that we currently have. I'm not gonna express a preference, but what's the preference of the board?
I agree with Matt.
Matt, do you agree with you, Matt?
Are we there yet? Are we there at a
I
point?
think we are, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they have everything right now, because they don't have the DOT, and you gotta do a new traffic study.
Well, so we do have, we have the updated traffic numbers from the,
I mean, you don't have it here, like, it's not here, like.
I do have so I have the updated numbers, if you want, I have 10 copies of them, I can hand them to you. Anyway,
So.
Let's get excited.
So.
That'll become attachment 19. You give it to us.
Well, it'll be part of, again, it'll be part of one of the earlier attachments, the same with the stormwater calculations that replaced, item 4.
I just wanna have nothing, like, so they're in agreement, and I agree. Like, we would like a single application with all of the exhibits on it up to date, and with all the things that you need to put in front of us, and almost all of them are here. You gotta update a couple of them, and we still don't have the 860 survey, boundary survey, and the agreement with the town. But if you get those, and you put it all into a nice package, I think we're very close, if not there, to a final package. Not yet, I won't forget. But I think, we've still got this use issue, but that's really separate from a complete application. Because
What use issue?
My desire to have him define what he is and isn't gonna do. But that's separate from giving us all the documentation.
Unless they decide that they want some of these things in here, and then
We put him on notice
it
that
has to be put in there.
we put him on notice that if these things aren't in there, they're not gonna be allowed to do them.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
very well done, very clear.
So they can change it if they want, that's up to you guys. But you disagree with our position, but you know our position, if somebody comes to the campground and engages in a behavior, that's a commercial behavior. So that's our opinion, that's our position, and you can disagree with it, but that's the position we're gonna take. So, 16 friends doing watercross on a campground is a commercial activity. If you want to adjust the application based on this information, that's up to you. But everything else, you need to give it to us in one package.
And if there's anything that you're waiting for, rather than having to give us a new package, what I'd say is have a tab for it and a placeholder.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one point I just want to discuss, I know the ordinance is typically you find it complete, then schedule a sidewalk. I do believe that a sidewalk would be beneficial for the board and the folks of the town. Obviously, the board does not entertain sidewalks with a certain amount of snow on the ground. Forecast looks good for the next month, give or take, but things can turn quickly.
You get us the application, the complete application, and we receive the application, we'll schedule a sidewalk as soon as humanly possible.
Okay.
And if it snows beforehand, we've been waiting for this information since May, so
The snow came and melted again.
I wouldn't feel
Yeah.
upset if.
We'll get it done.
snowed,
We'll get it done.
Yeah, I mean, that said, as far as the timing, we try to do things the right way. So, it takes a lot of work to design this much road and stormwater system and all that stuff, so.
That's fine, yeah, there is periods of time before Thanksgiving that we can get this done. And we rarely have snow on the ground for any duration before Thanksgiving.
Last year.
Well, for any duration, it goes away. So, we would like to get the sidewalk done this year and get this well on its way, but.
Gotcha.
No, yeah, that's definitely our intent, so.
I apologize.
That's okay. Now, you may have said something about this, but I'm just wondering, if this is permitted, and then we see that it's creating issues, is it a permit that lasts a certain amount of time, or can people in the town come to the planning board and talk to them, or how does that work?
Well, we used to think that the permits were issued and they lasted forever. But we recently learned that we can put a length of time on the permit that amount of investment involved, whether or not this is a potential use that would sunset, that's for discussion with the board and potentially with the applicant and, you know, understanding the town's position. But I would be concerned with a sunset, given the amount of investment that they're undertaking to do this project. That's not to say we can't think creatively, though, that maybe certain uses could be sunsetted if they're particularly concerned. We just need to talk about that.
It sounds like there's, an enforcement aspect to your question as well. Like being in compliance with the land use ordinance and the CUP. And we are not the enforcement arm of the town. That is this gentleman right here and the selectmen.
I guess my concern is that I see this project as impacting us. And I'm just wondering, you know, once this is approved, is it a done deal? And, you know, what do we do about our future living here and dealing with this?
I'm not sure we have an answer to that.
Yeah.
I
mean, I guess it's our problem. I get it. But, you know, when things have happened in the past, can people come to the planning board later and say, hey, you know, this is...
It's really, you go to the selectmen.
Yeah, the selectmen and the CEO. Cause we
I'll
can't enforce that.
I'll candidly say now, you have to come to me and we discuss it, and then I try to work out a situation where it can be mediated and solved, and sometimes it involves, talking with the camp owners and see if they'll mediate and adjust things. So it's a moving, working situation.
Yeah, I mean, historically, we've been able to work out most things in town, historically. Sometimes it meant a big fence, but, you know, sometimes.
And I just assume we get Gary as a selectman isn't part of the discussion about it.
Did you have a question?
Oh, just wondering, how much is too much? Is there a number, the number of people coming into the area due to this project? Do you have a number that it's just too much for a small town like Baldwin to absorb, or to expect us to live with it? I mean, is there a number where if you...
I don't know.
Well, I think that's kind of a problem.
I mean, things that we've done.
I share that concern. And that's one of the things why we have, enlisted the Southern Maine Planning and Development Corporation, namely, Lee J. Feldman, to help the town and the planning board evaluate this CUP for that exact reason. You know, has the town, has the planning board, have we adequately looked at the impact of the campground on the town's air, water, road, and other resources? Is there anything that we're overlooking? Do we need additional contingencies or conditions in here? So we're really relying on Southern Maine Planning and Development Corporation a lot to answer that question. Is that, you feel that's correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've done things like make sure that the fire chief has been involved in the process, so he can look at this and say, I can get my trucks in there, I can get around, I understand what the project is, I'm comfortable with it. We talked about an evacuation plan if there's a fire or something of that nature, how these folks are going to get out of that facility in a safe manner. We've talked about the impact on the infrastructure. What's that look like? That's the traffic study, is the impact on the infrastructure of town. We've talked about the volume of people coming and going, and again, that's the traffic study. We've talked about the noise and what the impact of the noise is, and that's been a thing that we've, talked about a lot.
And I mean, that's really us following the things in the land use ordinance.
Right, that's what the land use ordinance says we're supposed to look
It
at.
doesn't say, I mean, and the town could amend the land use ordinance to say something, but there's nothing about this number.
Right.
Sounds dangerous.
And we're all looking at the negatives, and there are a lot of positives.
Tell us what the positives
How
are.
does it- how
Just
does it
run
help
through them,
anyone
cause
else?
I need to hear them.
Jobs in the community.
According to the website, it's
Let's just slow down, slow down,
Seasonal's
slow
better
down.
than zero, there's a lot of,
So
there's a lot of.
wait, slow down, like, if he's gonna talk, you gotta let him talk,
okay, you're right.
and you can't jump
No,
on him.
I'm showing you respect, it's respect. Jobs, that's the first thing. Seasonal is better than zero. There's a lot of people in this town that would benefit from seasonal jobs. A lot of kids would benefit from a seasonal job. The added taxes, the people that are coming here are gonna go through our one and only store in the town. They're gonna buy gas. It's gonna benefit him. They could come up here and need a garage. We have garages in this town. There's a lot of benefits.
More. I want more.
Well, but just because it's a benefit, so it puts Baldwin on the map, people come here, they're aware of our area, it's gonna help Cornish with the restaurant. It's gonna have, it's going to potentially, draw more people to, whatever business is in this area. I mean, there are positives, there'll be more people here. That may be a negative to you, but it's a positive to a lot of people. So, it's not all negative, but it may not be your positive, it may be his positive or his positive. Our job is to try to, follow the land use ordinance, to look at the impact and and try to work with the applicant to make the impact as little as possible on the surrounding property owners. And the ordinance tells us that there is a certain amount of impact that's too much. And so we try to follow that. But to say no, the ordinance doesn't say we can say no. And so we've got to follow the ordinance. Well, I really wanted to watch the Patriots game.
Just one more quick thing.
Joe.
I do Joe first and then Joe, and then,
The problem, I think, Gary, is that you and Scott have gone out of your way to insult your neighbors, and it's like you do the water cross thing, and then you got shown that that's maybe not a great idea. It's scheduled for, you cancel it, but you have 6 guys come in and four guys come in and do a little water cross thing, just kind of to tell everybody, see, no, but that's the way it appears. And so what I'm trying to say is, you catch a lot more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And you and Scott have been vinegar the whole way. And that's why people don't trust you. I don't have a lot of problem with that run by nice people who wanted to be nice to their neighbors. But you are not a nice person, and Scott is not a nice person. Prove to me you're nice people.
We are very
You
nice
aren't
to a lot
doing
of our
it.
neighbors.
You aren't doing it.
We are a lot of our neighbors enjoy it, come over and watch it. And I agree with you, partially. We're not doing it to do this. I'm exercising my right. I'm not gonna just shut down and bend over because you don't like it. That's what we're talking about, all get along here. I have a right to use it, you have a right to dislike it. We
I
both
didn't
have
say
the right to do it.
I didn't say I disliked it. What I was saying
We sound
is,
bad, whatever, Jack, it's fine.
one more comment, and I think we're gonna wrap it up for the night.
I'm just gonna make a comment of speculation, and I think most of the impact you're worried about is traffic.
And noise. And noise.
Well, okay, but I'm gonna say something about traffic. You've gotta realize that, first of all, camp's not gonna be in full operation next summer. It's gonna take a few years to build up, so traffic's gonna increase. They'll trickle in maybe April, May, and they'll trickle in around September, October. Most of vacation time is when school gets out, middle of June to Labor Day, so that's 2.5 months. That's it.
And that's the point I was gonna bring up. The campground's realistically gonna open with the phase one going up through there, 20, 30 sites. It's gonna grow yearly. It's not gonna be like, boom, open up, May 1st, 1,000 sites, well, 300 sites, 1,000 people. It's gonna grow yearly to that. Realistically,
So what if it takes, a year or two at free, where, I expect to live longer than that?
and so do I. You can live there,
Well, I see the impact on Senator Black already.
Right,
And when you start drawing these people in, it's gonna be huge. And I think a lot of people in the area are gonna be sorry they allowed it. I've lived in an area.
So, I encourage you to continue to come to these meetings.
If something's resolved, it would be great, but 3 years and, still ditching around here, I mean, you could tell the guy no or yes, something.
But he hasn't actually given us a complete application yet. And we're here whether he gives us a complete application or not. And we're trying, you can't say no because he hasn't given us the full application yet. And we're, not that we're gonna say no, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not prejudging it, but we try to be as accommodating to anybody who walks in the door as possible. And, that on there is the 5th generation of this project. Now, does that mean we should say no because it's the 5th generation? I don't think so. I think that's a better project than the first one or the second one. So we've been patient with him, and I think we've now reached a point where we're done, and we will get a final application. And you and your friends and your neighbors and the people around should come to every meeting that we talk about this, because it's helpful for us to hear these voices. Because if you don't show up, we think you're happy. So, I appreciate you all showing up.
I assume the one thing I was gonna say earlier, but, they're proposing a 300 site, campground. We can grant them a permit that only allows a third of that, or 2/3 of that, or.
If there's a basis for it,
If there's a basis for it, yes. So, that's a possibility as well, so.
And just to be clear, the holdup in approving the CUP or getting a final CUP that we can vote on hasn't all been just with the planning board. There have been a lot of fits and starts with the state and the Department of Environmental Protection and, having to revegetate areas and redo the plans and things like that have nothing to do with planning board input.
But we want you to come back. Please come back, because it's the only way you have a voice is if you show up.
Bring your concerned friends as well.
We want you back too. Jerry, you're always here. We like that. All right.
Hey, actually, do you guys want this stuff back? Because if you're gonna give us a complete one, these maps are assuming to be part of their complete. I don't know, I'm just thinking.
We can, we're prepared just to give you a fresh copy.
Give us a fresh copy of everything.
Yeah, it's just easy enough to hit print and run it through.
I've got.
If it were full-size plans, they're very expensive, but we've made minor adjustments with labeling, so.
You just give us a fresh plan.
You fresh everything, you can take that and use it for.
I'll leave it here for somebody to look at.
Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So the other things on the agenda we'll deal with next time.
maybe.
Appreciate everybody. Take a vote. All in favor? Done. Thank you.